Have you ever felt that deep discomfort? That sense that something is wrong even when everyone around you seems perfectly comfortable? As if your spirit naturally rejects certain situations that are completely normal for others. It is not a coincidence. It is not an exaggeration. It is a sign that you may be one of the chosen. Being chosen by God does not mean living in constant spiritual ecstasy. In fact, it often means carrying a heightened sensitivity that makes certain mundane experiences simply unbearable. You feel more, perceive more, and consequently suffer from what others do not even notice. It is a burden that accompanies the divine calling. In this video, I will reveal the 5 things that true chosen ones simply cannot tolerate. Not out of arrogance or superiority, but because they were designed with a different spiritual frequency. If you identify with them, you may discover why you have always felt like a stranger in this world, even among family and friends. These 5 truths act as a mirror for your soul. Each one will reveal an aspect of your spiritual sensitivity that confirms your differentiated nature. Many spend their entire lives blaming themselves for not adapting when, in reality, they were not made to adapt. They were made to transform the environment around them. Some of these truths may seem simple at first glance, but they carry profound revelations about your true identity. Others may explain behaviors of yours that have always been misinterpreted by others. Together, they will form a map that explains why you feel out of place in a world that values what your soul naturally rejects. Be sure to subscribe to the channel right now. We have a growing community of people who, like you, are awakening to their true purpose. Click the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us on this journey of self-discovery and divine purpose. There is something almost painful for the chosen when they find themselves trapped in superficial conversations. That endless talk about the weather, never-ending discussions about celebrities, gossip about people they barely know. The body is present, but the spirit twists, seeking an escape. It's as if every empty word sucks a little of their vital energy. Social gatherings often turn into true testing grounds. While others float comfortably in trivial subjects, the chosen desperately seek a thread of meaning, a real connection, an exchange that is worth the time invested. It is not snobbery. It is a spiritual necessity that few understand and many confuse for arrogance or shyness. This aversion to the superficial has deep roots. The chosen carry within them a hunger for truth that cannot be satisfied with crumbs of conversation. When someone speaks with substance, their eyes shine, their body leans forward, their attention is fully fixed. It is as if they finally find water in the desert of everyday interactions. Silence often seems more nourishing than empty words. A chosen one can spend hours in nature, reading or contemplating, and feel fulfilled. But 15 minutes of conversation about nothing can leave them exhausted, irritated, disconnected. The world rarely understands this energy economy, this selectivity that seems antisocial, but is merely self-preservation. Observe how a chosen one behaves in groups. They listen more than they speak. They ask questions that seek depth. They gently try to steer the conversation toward meaningful topics. When they can't, they often withdraw, physically or mentally, not out of disdain for others, but out of respect for the calling they carry within. On social media, this characteristic also manifests. The chosen quickly tire of the endless parade of edited images, empty motivational quotes, and purposeless exposure. They seek content that nourishes, challenges, and expands. Their mind longs for substance in a world addicted to appearances and instant approval. This sensitivity to conversational emptiness is not a weakness, but an indicator. Just as migratory birds sense magnetic changes that other animals ignore, the chosen detect the absence of purpose in words. Their spirit has been calibrated to recognize what builds up and what merely takes up space. An internal compass always pointing towards the significant. The deepest relationships in the life of a chosen one form with people who also value depth. That friendship where silence is comfortable. That conversation that stretches into the night without noticing the time passing. That gathering where social masks fall and souls truly connect. These moments are rare and precious, true oases in a desert of empty interactions. A chosen one recognizes others by the quality of their communication, not necessarily by eloquence or flowery vocabulary, but by authenticity, by the true presence behind the words. It's as if two similar frequencies recognize each other amid the noise. These encounters bring relief and confirmation. You are not alone in this search for real connections. If you constantly feel suffocated by conversations that go in empty circles, if you long for exchanges that nourish your soul, if you prefer silence to weightless words, receive this as a sign of your calling. Your intolerance for the superficial is not a social defect. It is a spiritual compass, indicating that you were made for deeper waters than the surface, where many settle for swimming. There is an almost supernatural ability in the chosen that often makes them appear distrustful in the eyes of others. They can sense manipulation even before it fully manifests. Like an animal that senses an earthquake before the instruments detect it, the chosen pick up on the hidden intention behind sweet words and calculated gestures. This sensitivity does not arise from nowhere. From an early age, the chosen observe patterns that others ignore. They notice when a smile does not reach the eyes, when generosity comes with invisible strings attached, when a compliment is merely bait for a request that will come later. It is an energetic reading that goes beyond the spoken words. Family gatherings, work environments, social circles, all become emotional minefields for those with this radar. The chosen feel in their bodies the dissonance between what is said and what is intended. A tightening in the chest, a knot in the stomach, a sudden tension in the shoulders. The body reacts to falsehood even before the mind fully processes what is happening. Withdrawal is often the natural response, not out of arrogance or a sense of superiority, but out of self-preservation. Staying close to someone who manipulates is like breathing toxic air. It slowly poisons the spirit. The chosen learn, often after painful experiences, that distance is not cruelty, but a spiritual necessity when it comes to emotional games. Emotional blackmail is particularly unbearable for them. That manufactured guilt, that strategic victimization, that veiled threat of abandonment. While many give in to maintain peace, the chosen feel every fiber of their being rebelling against this form of control. Even if it means facing conflict or misunderstanding, submission to this type of game simply is not a viable option. People who try to dim the light of others to shine more brightly are quickly identified by the chosen. That colleague who subtly sabotages, that friend who always changes the subject when you share an achievement, that family member who minimizes your dreams with realistic concerns. The chosen see the fear behind these actions, but that does not allow them to be diminished. This ability to discern often places the chosen in challenging positions. While others remain blind to manipulation, they see clearly and must decide to speak and risk being labeled problematic, or to stay silent and betray their own perception. This tension between inner truth and outer harmony is a constant in the lives of those who carry this heightened sensitivity. Ironically, many manipulators feel inexplicably uncomfortable in the presence of a chosen one, even when they say nothing. It is as if the clarity of their gaze serves as a mirror that reflects hidden intentions. It is not uncommon for people with hidden agendas to naturally avoid the company of the chosen, or try to discredit them in front of others. True relationships are rare and precious precisely because of this sensitivity. When a chosen one meets someone genuine, without games or masks, the connection is immediate and deep. It is like finally being able to relax muscles that were in a constant state of alert. These authentic encounters are vital sources of renewal for those living in a world filled with layers and subtexts. If you constantly detect falseness where others see only normality, if your body reacts physically to people with dubious intentions, if you prefer to be alone rather than participate in manipulative relational dynamics, recognize this as a gift, not as paranoia. Your internal radar is not broken. It is functioning exactly as it should to protect the mission you carry. The chosen carry an energetic sensitivity that few understand. The modern world, with its constant bombardment of stimuli, sounds, and information, represents for them a true invisible battlefield. While many thrive in bustling environments, the chosen feel every noise, every parallel conversation, every blinking light as small jabs in their nervous system. Social events that others consider fun can turn into true tests of endurance. Noisy parties, crowded shopping centers, prolonged meetings with many people speaking simultaneously. These environments quickly deplete their energy reserves. It is not fussiness or antisocial behavior. It is a biological and spiritual reality that many confuse with simple introversion. Unnecessary exposure is particularly draining. Being the center of attention without a clear purpose, being under curious or expectant gazes, being forced into empty social performances, all of this consumes a disproportionate amount of vital energy. The chosen value authenticity over visibility and prefer meaningful anonymity 1,000 times over empty fame. There is an absorbing capacity that many chosen discover early in life. They do not just perceive the mood of those around them. They absorb it, like emotional sponges. The sadness of a coworker, the anxiety of a stranger in the elevator, the unspoken tension between two people in a meeting. All of this is picked up and often internalized, creating a constant emotional overload. Retreat becomes not just a preference, but a survival necessity. Those moments of solitude are not signs of depression or misanthropy. They are essential periods for energetic recalibration. Like a musical instrument that needs to be tuned away from the noise to maintain its precision, the chosen require these intervals of silence to maintain their spiritual harmony. Nature often becomes a refuge and ally. Forests, deserted beaches, mountains, quiet gardens. These environments offer not only tranquility, but a revitalizing, energetic quality. While human noise drains, natural sounds restore. The wind in the trees, the singing of birds, the murmur of a stream. These sounds bring a peace that no artificial environment can replicate. Ironically, many chosen find themselves in roles that require public exposure. Teachers, speakers, leaders. In these cases, there is a crucial distinction they learn to make: purposeful exposure versus empty exposure. When they are sharing a message they consider important, conveying valuable knowledge, or advocating for a just cause, they find a source of energy that temporarily overcomes their sensitivity to excessive stimuli. Inner silence becomes an essential spiritual practice. Meditation, contemplative prayer, moments of quiet. These are tools not for isolating from the world, but for better preparing to serve the world. It is in the silence that they can finally hear the voice that is often drowned out by the constant noise of modern life. The voice of divine intuition that guides their unique mission. If you regularly feel overwhelmed in noisy environments, if you need time alone to recharge after social interactions, if you feel as if you are picking up on emotions that are not yours, recognize this as an aspect of your spiritual design. there is nothing wrong with you. Your sensitivity is not a weakness. It is an essential part of your equipment to fulfill your greater purpose in this world. The heart of a chosen one bleeds when it witnesses injustices. It is not a calculated reaction or a learned posture. It is visceral, immediate, almost like physical pain. Seeing someone being humiliated, oppressed, or manipulated awakens in them an anguish that many do not understand. This amplified empathy is both a gift and a burden they have carried since childhood. Situations that others observe with indifference or passive acceptance provoke in the chosen an uncontrollable inner agitation. A child being unjustly reprimanded, an elderly person being treated with disrespect, an employee being humiliated by a superior. These common scenes of everyday life that many ignore ignite in the chosen a flame of indignation that does not easily extinguish. The abuse of power, on any scale, is particularly intolerable. Whether in the family, where one member controls others through emotional manipulation, or in institutions where authorities use their positions for personal gain, the chosen see the oppressive patterns with painful clarity. While many normalize these dynamics, the chosen feel each abuse as a distortion of the natural order of things. This sensitivity to injustice often places the chosen in uncomfortable situations. There is a constant conflict between the impulse to intervene and the recognition of their own limitations. They cannot always speak out, nor do they always have the power to change the circumstances, but forced silence does not diminish the inner storm they feel when witnessing the abuse of power. Many chosen are wrongly labeled as problematic or difficult, simply because they cannot silently participate in unjust systems. In schools, workplaces, churches, families, anywhere conformity is valued over truth, the chosen eventually become an uncomfortable element, a dissonant voice that others would prefer to silence. This trait often shapes the professional paths of the chosen. It is no coincidence that many are drawn to careers that involve advocating for the vulnerable: human rights lawyers, dedicated teachers, social workers, investigative journalists, doctors in underserved areas. The vocation arises naturally from the inability to ignore the suffering and injustice around them. The connection between justice and spirituality is deeply rooted in the psyche of the chosen. For them, allowing injustice to flourish is not only morally wrong, but spiritually corrosive. They feel that betraying this amplified awareness would be betraying their own divine purpose. It is as if they have made a sacred pact, not to turn a blind eye to what others prefer not to see. This sensitivity comes at a high emotional cost. The chosen often carry the weight of the injustices they witness, even when they cannot change them directly. Sleepless nights thinking about situations they have witnessed, tears shed for strangers whose stories touch their hearts, emotional exhaustion from absorbing so much of others' suffering. These are the invisible costs of their heightened perception. If you find yourself deeply disturbed by injustices that others hardly notice, if you feel the pain of others as if it were your own, if you cannot simply move on when you witness abuses of power, recognize this sensitivity as a mark of your mission. You are not seeing too much. You are seeing exactly what you have been called to see in a world that prefers convenient blindness. There are invisible chains that many people carry throughout life without realizing. Family expectations turned into mandatory paths, relationships that drain the soul but are maintained out of fear of loneliness, labels imposed in childhood that still define limits in adulthood. For most, these shackles are just a normal part of existence. For the chosen, they are absolutely unbearable prisons. The chosen feel a calling for authenticity that surpasses any social convention. From an early age, they demonstrate a natural resistance to being molded against their essential nature. Parents, teachers, and authority figures often interpret this resistance as rebellion or stubbornness. when in fact it is an instinctive defense of the divine seed they carry. It is as if something inside them knows that accepting certain limitations would mean betraying their greater purpose. The expectations of others weigh like lead on their shoulders. You should be a doctor like your father. A good daughter wouldn't question this tradition. In our family, everyone follows this path. Seemingly innocent phrases that sound to the chosen like prison sentences. It is not that they despise the wisdom of the elders or family traditions. It is that they feel an inner direction so clear that ignoring it would be a form of spiritual self-mutilation. The moment of breaking free from these emotional prisons is almost always traumatic and poorly understood by others. When a chosen one finally decides to leave a toxic relationship, change careers against family expectations, or distance themselves from friendships that no longer resonate with their path, they rarely receive immediate support. Misunderstanding, judgment, and even attempts at sabotage are common responses from those around them who feel threatened by the courage of someone choosing freedom. The temporary loneliness that follows these breakups is one of the most difficult tests on the chosen's journey. That period between leaving what no longer serves and finding their true spiritual tribe. Days, months, or even years seemingly walking alone, questioning their choices in moments of weakness. But it is precisely in this emotional desert that many discover a transformative truth. They have never been truly alone, only disconnected from themselves. Empty routines of meaning are particularly suffocating for the spirit of the chosen. Waking up, working, eating, entertaining oneself, sleeping, repeating. The mechanical cycle that modern society presents as normal life. Their spirits long for more organic rhythms, for days guided by inspiration instead of the clock, for activities aligned with a greater purpose, rather than mere survival or accumulation. This restlessness with routine is not laziness or thoughtlessness. It is a calling for a more conscious way of existence. Intuition becomes an essential compass in this navigation out of emotional prisons. That inner voice that whispers directions, that tightening in the chest that signals danger, that inexplicable certainty about a path to take. The chosen learn, often after painfully ignoring these signs, to trust this inner guidance above external opinions. It is not spiritual arrogance, but the recognition that the same force that called them also guides them. Paradoxically, it is only by breaking free from these prisons that the chosen finally find their true community. People who celebrate their authenticity instead of fearing it. Relationships that energize instead of drain. Connections based on genuine resonance, not on dependence or control. This spiritual tribe rarely resembles what they imagined. It often crosses barriers of age, culture, social class, and even specific beliefs, united only by a shared commitment to authenticity. If you constantly feel suffocated in certain relationships, if you experience a persistent restlessness with the conventional paths presented to you, if you feel a calling for something more authentic, even without knowing exactly what it means, accept this as a sign of who you truly are. The prisons that bother you the most reveal, by contrast, the freedom your soul was designed for. You have spent your entire life feeling that something was wrong, not with the world, with the fact that you seemed to be the only one who noticed what was wrong with the world. While others comfortably adapted to empty conversations, games of manipulation, constant noise, normalized injustices, and toxic relationships, something inside you screamed in protest. This discomfort is not a flaw in your spiritual design, it is the clearest proof of your true identity. Just as a perfectly tuned instrument immediately detects a dissonant note, your soul naturally rejects what is out of harmony with your divine purpose. This sensitivity that has often made you feel strange, unadapted, or overly sensitive is actually your greatest gift. The chosen carry within them a cellular memory of something greater, as if every fiber of their being remembers a place, a frequency, a reality where truth does not need to fight to be heard, where connections are authentic, where silence is respected, where justice flows naturally, and where freedom is the normal state of all souls. This contrast between what your soul remembers and the world you found is the source of your constant discomfort. Understand that your calling was never to fit in. A seed was not planted to look like the soil. It was planted to transform the soil into something completely new. What you instinctively reject precisely reveals the areas where you are destined to bring change. Your aversion to falsehood indicates that you came to bring truth. Your intolerance for injustice shows that you came to establish equity. Your discomfort with the superficial points to your mission of bringing depth. Every characteristic that makes you feel different is actually a specialized tool in your spiritual arsenal. The hypersensitivity that causes you suffering also allows you to feel what others do not feel. The discomfort with crowds that often isolates you also enables you to hear the divine voice clearly. The refusal to accept toxic relationships that brought you loneliness also preserved your essence for true connections. You are not alone on this journey, even when it seems so. There are others like you, equally displaced, equally sensitive, equally uncomfortable with what the world has normalized. They may be scattered. They may not have crossed your path yet, but they are out there, recognizing in the same things the signs of their true nature. Share in the comments. Which of these 5 uncontestable truths resonates most with your soul as a chosen one? Your response may be exactly what another chosen one needs to read today to feel less alone on their journey. Remember, recognizing yourself is the first step to fully awakening to your mission.